Greetings, YouTube! The Doctor is in. Dr. Urias Papers here, coming at you with another commentary on Dungeons & Dragons, and welcome to the channel that takes power gaming to the next level. Today on the Doctor Spell Prognosis, we are talking about the spell Move Earth. We are giving this spell a C+. But first, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you have any questions or comments, please leave a question or comment, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you know when I've got another video. All right, so this is a 6th level spell, takes 1 action, 120 feet, verbal, somatic, and material component, which is worthless, so we don't need to worry about that. It has a duration of 2 hours and requires concentration, and there is a question about the 2 hours that we're going to get into. It is a transmutation spell. It's usable by druids, sorcerers, and wizards. So choose an area of terrain no larger than 40 feet on a side within range. So is that a cube? Is that just a square? It doesn't really say. You reshape dirt, sand, or clay. Clay can be very, very dense. Just saying, clay can be dense. And if clay is wet, it is very malleable, and then when it dries, it becomes very hard, almost stone-like. So you can reshape dirt, sand, or clay in the area in any manner you choose for the duration. So here's where I'm going to say. I went on to Sage Advice, and I looked on Sage Advice to see if there was anything on here at all about this spell, and there is nothing. So there are no official rulings about Move Earth. So this is going to be a DM's call as to what happens with this spell. Do the things that you create only last for 2 hours, or can you create things for 2 hours that are permanent? That is what I'm putting out there. My interpretation of this would be that you can reshape dirt, sand, or clay in the area in any manner you choose for the duration. That means you can reshape it for 2 hours, and it's permanent after that if it can be supported. So if you're making all kinds of weird shapes that can't be supported, they probably will just fall over. So you can raise or lower the area's elevation, create or fill a trench, erect or flatten a wall, or form a pillar. So there's a lot of, I think these are just examples. You can. It doesn't mean you have to. It mean, and I think the word can doesn't mean those are the only things. So you can reshape it in any manner you choose. That's what the spell says. So the extent of any such changes cannot exceed half the area's largest dimensions. So if you affect a 40-foot square, now here's where they change. They say 40-foot square, and in the first sentence they just say an area of 40 feet on a side. A cube is 40 feet on a side. A square is also 40 feet on a side. So one is two-dimensional. One is three-dimensional, so there's a little bit of a difference. But anyway, so if you affect a 40-foot square, you can create a pillar up to 20 feet high. Raise or lower the square's elevation by up to 20 feet. So you can take that entire 40 feet and raise its elevation 20 feet or lower its elevation from 20 feet. Dig a trench up to 20 feet deep, which I think that's the same thing as lowering the elevation by 20 feet, and so on. It takes 10 minutes for these changes to complete. So I think you just do it, and they take place 10 minutes later. The next sentence, at the end of every 10 minutes, you spend concentrating on the spell, which means you're concentrating on the spell the whole time unless you say you're not concentrating on it or you take damage, which forces you to not concentrate. So at the end of every 10 minutes you spend concentrating on the spell, you can choose a new area of terrain to affect. At the end of every 10 minutes you spend concentrating on it. So I guess you concentrate on a 40-foot area for 10 minutes, and the change takes place because it takes 10 minutes for the change, and then you can switch to a new area. So it is at the end of every 10 minutes you spend concentrating on the spell, you can choose a new area. And I don't like the word can. That means it doesn't seem must choose a new area. It just says you can. So you can, so technically you can do this 12 times because it's for 2 hours. Because the terrain's transformation occurs slowly, creatures in the area cannot usually be trapped or injured by the ground's movements. Okay, yeah, things take place over 10 minutes. That's pretty slow. The spell cannot manipulate natural stone or stone construction. Rocks and structures shift to accommodate the new terrain. If the way you shape the terrain would make a structure unstable, it might collapse. So I just want everybody to remember that. Similarly, this spell does not directly affect plant life. The move earth carries any plants along with it. So one way that this could be used, because say mountains are not entirely rock, they are a mixture of rock and earth. You could move parts of a mountain that are earth and cause a landslide. You could do this and an avalanche as well. And if you've ever gone on, just go on YouTube and just search avalanche or landslide, and you will see horrendously huge rocks dropping down from the top of mountains because the earth shifted a bit, and it is devastating. And I'm talking rocks that are the size, that are 4 or 5 stories tall, 50, 60, 70 feet tall, huge rocks coming down. Can you imagine if you had like a castle that was up against a cliff wall or up against a mountain, and you caused a landslide to come down on it because you were attacking it? That would be absolutely devastating. Can you imagine that if you had a castle or a keep or a structure of some kind, and you created a 20-foot deep basement below it all of a sudden? So there would be nothing holding up the structure itself anymore, and the structure would just collapse. Now, if it's got a basement and it's got stone in the basement, then you just start digging underneath, and that collapses on itself, collapsing everything else above it. So, if you know anything about engineering and physics, you could destabilize structures pretty heavily because they all sit on some kind of foundation that sits on loose earth. And if you move that earth in any way, it's almost like an earthquake happening. It will do structural damage to a building or a structure, and it could be enough to actually make it collapse. So, there are a lot of uses for this spell. I think this is a pretty cool spell. I would say that these things are permanent. I would say that you can change stuff for 2 hours, which is a lot. But you can do a lot of building too. If you combine this spell with Wall of Stone, you could really make some good kind of earthenworks type of structures. Like the Great Wall of China. That is easily, you could make something that is very much like that. The Great Wall is not just composed of stone, it's composed of earth mounds around walls, inside walls of stone. So you just think about that. All right, that's what I got for everybody today. I appreciate everybody tuning in, and I will catch you.